Dune Awakening has a lot going on in it, from all of the mission systems, to the building systems, to the construction systems, and the talents, and all the things in between. It's a pretty daunting task, and sometimes things in this game can start to feel a little confusing. And there are things that I have learned along the way that, had I known them earlier, I think would have made my life a whole lot easier. So here is a list of 10 things that I wish I knew when I was new. Once you finally get around to building your first ornithopter and are able to finally leave the map via the map border, you come to an overworld map. And maybe you had heard that there are central cities for Harkonnen and Atreides. But if you don't necessarily know how to get there, it's a little bit daunting at first. Through your travels, you may have heard that there are a couple of central cities, Harko Village and Arakeen, that can be traveled to for social hubs and trading and whatnot. And as you progress through the game, there are even additional areas that open up that you need to travel to for certain missions. People might not know this, but you have the ability to use the W, S, A, and D keys to pan the camera around on the overworld map to see where it is you're trying to go. And you can also use the mouse wheel to mouse wheel out a little bit to zoom out, but that might not be good enough. If we zoom in on the ornithopter's little model, you can see that there's this little carroted arrow that points in the direction that your ornithopter is facing. If we click around, it actually follows whatever direction the ornithopter is turned in. But if we hit M and take a look at the continental map and then click one of the points of interest on the left, by pressing spacebar, it will start tracking that point. The tracking is done via the arrow around the ornithopter. Now it points in the direction of wherever it is that you're trying to go. One of the things that I learned about way too late, and one of the bottlenecks to my progression in Arrakis, had to do with the intel system. Every time that you level in the game, you gain a certain amount of intel, depending on how many levels you have. But the other way to obtain intel is by finding it on the map. Scattered throughout the map, there are many of these different fortresses. They look like, I don't know, whatever I described it as 3 little houses or whatever on an icon. If you hover your mouse over that icon, it will tell you whether or not you have collected the intel from that location. The intel amount that you can gather from each one of these ranges from 3 intel in southern Haga Basin, where you first start out, up through 20 intel in select faction base locations in a couple of key spots on Haga Basin's map. This can increase to 30 and 40 intel that you can find at the end of points of interest in Deep Desert. Sometimes they're on a desk, sometimes they're tucked away behind a pentashield door that you have to find a wristband in order to be able to enter, and sometimes they're just tucked away into corners. You just have to look around and find them. They look like these little black discs on the tops of surfaces with a holographic compass or whatever floating above them. Building and crafting in Dune Awakening requires an awful lot of material, so progressively you try to get larger and larger storages on vehicles in order to be able to mule back more at once. But then when you get back to base, there's the process of hand unloading that stuff and putting it into chests back and forth over and over again. But you don't have to do that. Instead, what you want to do is walk up to the chest after you have parked in your base, and in the upper left-hand corner, there's a drop-down menu. From that drop-down menu, you can select the vehicle and its inventory, and then simply move that stuff from the vehicle's inventory directly into the box, saving you a significant amount of time. Certain quests in Dune Awakening, and journey steps for that matter, require you to collect blood from your enemies and put them in a blood bag. But sometimes when you come along those quest steps, for whatever reason, the blood bag that you need to fill is already full. One of the mistakes that I made was assuming I had to go and get another blood bag. And maybe this is a duh moment for some people, but I had to be reminded of this one. In Dune Awakening, you can drink blood. So if you have a quest, let's say, to collect blood from your enemies, but your blood bag is full, just drink blood out of the blood bag to empty the blood bag out and continue along your way collecting your blood samples. In Dune Awakening, there are sandstorms. Everyone that plays Dune Awakening at this point has seen them, but did you know that there are different types? On the overworld map, in the center of the sandstorm, there is a red sandstorm icon, but that icon has a number next to it. In Haga Basin, that number is always 1. It is a lower grade sandstorm, but in Deep Desert, it can be level 3. The difference being a level 1 sandstorm isn't strong enough to knock out somebody's base shields, but a level 3 sandstorm is. So whether you are on attack or defense, you want to make sure that the sandstorm that you see is level 3 so you know whether or not you can take or have to take action. Dune Awakening has a lot of awful cool scenery, and every once in a while you might feel compelled to take a screen cap, like I'm doing here. Or maybe you just want to get some glamour shots of the base that you built. Whatever. But no one wants to be annoyed with the UI if you're trying to get a cool scenery or a cool background or whatever, right? If you press F6, it will knock out the UI and allow you to take a camera mode style screenshot. Just press F6 again and you will get your UI back. The hand scanner in this game is something that people, I think, are sleeping on a little bit. The primary function of the hand scanner is to locate treasure chests, resource nodes, and it will also show you vehicle locations. But it does have another function, and there is also a unique one that you can find in Haga Rift, either in Arctis Cavern or the Spiral, that actually ends up being incredibly valuable. What people tend to not realize is that other people are also water, meaning that if you use a hand scanner and scan a base, let's say, you can see water droplets moving around, but it's kind of a special icon. A water resource node in the game shows up as a single water droplet icon. Blood is a larger water droplet icon and then a secondary smaller one, like you see here on my buddy Tommy. The tooltip for the unique hand scanner says that it only shows other people. So again, if you are in deep desert and you're wondering whether or not somebody is, let's say, in a base before a storm shows up, wondering whether or not you can raid it unopposed, you could use the hand scanner to scan to see if there's any water droplets moving around inside. The normal hand scanner will also do this, but it will also show a bunch of other nodes at the same time. So if you're trying to get an unobstructed view, let's say, the unique one is definitely the way to go. Every once in a while, I would find myself going and checking out the power generators to make sure they had enough, I guess, fuel, or I guess in this case, industrial lube for the large wind generators. And I noticed that they were getting a little bit low. A mistake that a lot of new players make is they go and they craft a whole bunch of it, and then they run up to each individual wind gen and they start hand feeding it into the storage or into the inventory of the actual wind gen, hand feeding it one wind generator at a time. But there is a way more efficient way to do this. If you walk up to your subfief console, you'll notice that the readout from that gives you a couple of details. One of them is taxes, and another one has to do with how much power you have left. On the left side of the subfief console, there's also a button that says to refill the power. So assuming that you have different types of generators or whatever it is that you have, as long as there are materials to be fed into them, all you have to do is click on that button and it will automatically refill your power generation systems so that you don't run out of juice. Okay, this next one might be my favorite one of this entire list. As we have started playing this game, a lot more of my friends have expressed interest and wanted to join. So at this point, say 15 days into the launch of the game, we have guys that are coming in that are kind of brand new. And depending on where I am, if I'm out and about, I don't always have the ability to give somebody permissions by using consoles or accessing the menus on each individual vehicle to add them to the list of people that can either ride in it or fly it or drive it. But the cool part is that Dune actually allows us to be able to do this remotely, even if we're not in the same zone. If they are on your friends list or if they are in your guild, all you have to do is open up the social pane, in this case go to the guild menu, select whoever it is that you want to change permissions on for whatever it is that you're changing permissions for, click on their name, and then click on the permissions button. From there, you will see everything that you are in control of or have some amount of control over in a giant list where you can go through and click the radio button, allowing them either associate or co-owner status. It even has a list that pops up on the screen that tells you the difference between what an associate versus a co-owner gets access to. This is huge for, let's say, if you are out in the deep desert, build a subfief somewhere for a remote forward operating base location to, say, collect titanium or stravidium or get spice, and it suddenly slips your mind that you didn't add all 40 people or whatever to the list. If you ended up missing somebody, you just have to click on their name, go through the list, and add them to the perms. And while I will say that the permission system in general in this game is really lacking, it's good that this feature at least exists. Last but not least, we have Agave Seeds. In the late game, there are several crafts as well as furniture pieces and especially lighting and banners that require agave seeds as part of their craft recipe or construction. Aside from randomly looting them out of chests or off of bodies in the Odom, the only place that they can actually be found as collectible nodes is in Odom around the giant cactus. There are only a handful of locations where they grow, but the plant itself looks like this. So if you're wondering where and how you collect them, this is how you collect them. They give about 5 seeds per node. Anyway, that's what I have for this one, guys. Let me know if there are some other tips that you thought of, maybe that I didn't, that you would put in the comments for somebody that was a little bit newer or somebody that's been traveling around and could use a little QOL. But as always, thank you guys so much for lending me your eyeballs, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.